AECT Standard 1, Content Knowledge, asks us to demonstrate our ability to create, use, manage, assess, and evaluate technology-infused learning and tools, as well as consider the ethical implications of educational technology in schools. In EdTech 501, Introduction to Educational Technology, we created an EdTech definition graphic to show that we understood the field of educational technology. This is the EdTech definition graphic, which I created in order to show the core concepts of educational technology as a field. This example artifact from EdTech 501 demonstrates my ability to manage digital tools like YouTube and Prezi in order to create an engaging learning tool that can be used with student-centered learning. In EdTech 502, Internet for Educators, I got the opportunity to use skills that I had developed during the program, like HTML and CSS, in order to create learning tools and materials that were completely self-contained and based on student-centered pedagogy like constructivism. Many of these learning materials that I created allowed me to assess and evaluate learners in a way I hadn't previously been able to do. While developing these tools, I considered the ethical implications of using public domain photos, videos, and other resources in the creation of my materials, and I was able to impart that kind of learning onto my students by creating a scavenger hunt about public domain, as you can see here, that had them use a constructivist style learning to build their own understanding of what public domain is and their roles and responsibilities as a user of the internet. In EdTech 541, Integrating Technology into the Classroom Curriculum, I evaluated various math learning tools in order to determine which ones were most appropriate for middle school math learners in a student-centered environment. This demonstrates my ability to assess learning tools in terms of purpose and appropriateness in a classroom context. By addressing Standard 1, I was able to build a set of skills and understandings to apply to technology integration at my school. This eventually led to me becoming an important resource and leader at my school in terms of technology integration. AECT Standard 2, Content Pedagogy, asks us to demonstrate effective implementation based in reflective practice. In EdTech 504, we looked at the theoretical foundations underlying educational technology. My reflection from EdTech 504 demonstrates my ability to assess and evaluate different aspects of technology integration based on pedagogy and educational research. This also demonstrates my ability to practice reflectively, meaning that as an instructor, I engage in the inquiry cycle in order to evaluate and revise my own teaching practice. Reflective practice is a large part of instructional design, which encompasses all of the stages of Standard 2. I use the instructional design cycle when creating a project-based unit, Our Galaxies Ourselves, for EdTech 542, and also when I was creating Campos, a memorization app created for EdTech 534. Both of these artifacts demonstrate my ability to manage different learning tools in order to create and use effective instruments for learning. The project-based unit in particular demonstrates my commitment to diversity in a learning environment. I included resources from different international museums as open-ended options for the students' research time during their inquiry. At my current school, we call the classroom the third teacher. In line with that kind of thinking, AECT Standard 3, Learning Environments, asks us to demonstrate our ability to use, assess and evaluate, manage, and consider the implications of ethics and diversity of learners in a learning environment. As an educator, it's essential for us to consider what kind of environment we're creating for our students. It's important for us to think about what kind of learners are going to be entering our spaces and how best we can promote a diverse, inclusive learning environment. In EdTech 541, we looked at the relative advantage of different kinds of learning tools, as you can see in this relative advantage chart. And we also conducted research to determine what our learners were doing in terms of technology at the present time. That includes accessibility, as well as trends in behavior. In my case, since I work with teens, I looked at how teens are using the internet. Our investigations in EdTech 503 about instructional design also showed us how to complete a context analysis in order to determine the important factors that influence the chemistry of our learning environments. What this enabled me to do was to analyze and assess the learning environments that I was teaching in and to implement different strategies in order to manage and better that environment. Because I was regularly engaging with the instructional design cycle and also completing context analyses, I feel like I'm in better control of my teaching environment, and I'm better able to address issues that come up spontaneously or over a long period of time. The community of practice is an essential professional development and management tool for any educator. AECT Standard 4, Professional Knowledge and Skills, addresses the areas of collaborative practice, leadership, reflection, assessment and evaluation, and ethics. There are a number of areas in the EdTech program where I was able to strengthen my skills as a collaborator and a leader in my community of educators. The first one is in EdTech 504, when we were looking at the theoretical foundations of different teaching practices. I investigated the community of practice and how to integrate that into a traditional or progressive learning environment. The next step in me becoming a better collaborator and leader was to practice the processes that would be most beneficial to my teaching environment, mainly evaluation and instructional design. In EdTech 503, for my final project, I designed a Google Plus community-based professional development forum for the teachers at my school. The Google community itself is still under development, but many of the teachers have adopted its use when trying to share resources digitally. In EdTech 505, I evaluated a piloted math program that I created for my school. I needed to communicate to the administrators and to the math coordinator the effectiveness of the program in terms of the school's larger learning program. Because I'm able to collaborate and work with a large variety of people, and also because I'm able to manage large projects, I have been entrusted with the position of ICT coordinator and science curriculum coordinator at my school, despite only working there for 1 year previous to that promotion. I know that I owe a lot of my success to the skills and strategies that I learned during the EdTech program. Many of the projects that I completed in my EdTech classes were directly applied to my job. AECT Standard 5 research expects us to show how we can use inquiry to enhance our learning and professional development. This means engaging with the inquiry cycle and using professional or institutionally acceptable guidelines in order to support our findings. EdTech 504, which investigated the theoretical foundations of educational technology, encouraged us to explore our areas of interest. In my case, I was interested in communities of practice and how that was tied to modern professional development communities. In EdTech 504, I searched for and evaluated resources, mainly peer-reviewed journal articles, about communities of practice. I created an annotated bibliography in order to keep track of my sources, and eventually I wrote a paper connecting technology integration to communities of practice. By engaging in this research-supported practice, I was attempting to solve an issue that was common in the United States of teachers leaving their teaching positions early. Throughout this process, I adhered to APA standards and guidelines. In the context of this research project, using APA standard guidelines and using peer-reviewed journals elevated my authority as a person seeking to find a solution to an identified issue. Another process that I learned in EdTech was evaluation, which I focused on in EdTech 505. The course centered around completing an evaluation report for a project that I could identify in my real life. I chose to evaluate a mathematics pilot program that I designed for my school. Unlike the assessments that I use in my regular teaching, evaluation is a complete process. It involves standardized evaluation models that can be adapted to different situations and also incorporates methods like gap analysis, which help evaluators identify and address different issues that can come up during an evaluation. Learning how to apply these different models of inquiry in my professional life has enabled me to take on larger projects, including evaluating existing programs and designing new ones for the future. And because I've been applying these techniques ethically, my school community has placed greater trust in me, which means greater responsibility. All in all, I'm enjoying the amount of control I have over the development of my classroom, and I know that has a lot to do with the skills that I gained during the EdTech program.